Hi guys, my name is Chris. I am thrilled to get a chance to work with you later this month for Duke University on the Transforming Mobility simulation. So we're going to be working together on what's really called transformation in action, or bringing transformation into action. This is, as you know, a key part of Professor Tony O'Driscoll's course. And on behalf of myself and the supporting team that we have, I really look forward to working with you in this very, very hands-on, deeply immersive digital environment. We are going to be working together. And in this video, I'm going to give you the preview, the high-level introduction, a little bit of stuff to think about and prepare before we get a chance to meet. Now, you can sit through this video very quickly once, or you can go through and look over a few things that you may want to prepare so you can make sure that you and your team get into a winning position. So we're going to be working with myself, Chris, with two of my partners, Hege and Enrico. Both of them are highly experienced facilitators running Transform in Action. Now, what we're going to be doing together is called Immersive Learning, or really hands-on digital action-based learning. We have been running Transform and Transform Digital Simulation with thousands of people in all sorts of contexts. It is by far one of the most powerful and one of the most interesting ways of working with and learning strategy, innovation, and transformation. Now, in Transform, you're going to be working in a digital environment. You're going to be leading your team. You're going to be building, or rather turning around, a company. And you'll get exposed to hundreds of action-based items, requiring you to make what we call micro decisions, strategic decisions on the fly. You'll be making a lot of decisions around what should our business model portfolio look like? Should we be investing into our core business, our growth business, our explore business? How should we deal with sudden bust experiences where things do not go as we planned? How should we handle our hostile competitors? How should we deal with new opportunities? How can we create a powerful transformation strategy that allows us to win in Transform? All of those things I will be explaining in this introduction video. So what you're going to be doing, what you're going to be exposed to, is what we call leading transformation. And you're going to be covering areas like teamwork, and some of you are going to experience really a bad teamwork. You're going to be working with strategy, innovation, finance, decision-making, and then finally, towards the end, negotiation techniques. Now, this is built on almost 20 years of work that I've been doing, where I've really been able to work inside the boardroom, inside the C-suite, and inside management teams with companies across a wide range of industries, but all working on different parts of a transformation journey. I've also been training CEOs, training C-suite teams, working with chief strategy leaders and chief transformation officers, consultants, and business school faculty all over the world to teach them the tools, the theories, and the methodologies behind our work and transformation. Currently, the material that you're seeing is being used by leading business schools at bachelor, master, and executive levels, where we're really trying to figure out how can we help smart people like yourself learn faster, have more fun, and make sure that it's a much more competitive process than a regular classroom experience is. So it's made in Norway, but it's used globally with one purpose, and that is building your skills around strategy and transformation. Now, a very quick recap. So what I've been doing over a number of years here is really working with teams and countries and governments and leaders at all levels, from private and public organizations, to figure out how do we deal with the need for transformation. One such story was Norway 2014. The oil price, as many of you may know, went to $115 a barrel, and then it just overnight crashed towards $29 a barrel. At the time, I was doing a lot of consulting, teaching, and speaking and research. And I said, wait a minute, guys, we need to do something. We need at the national level, regional level, company level, strategic levels, we need to develop our capabilities to successfully transform. How do we take a nation and a region, as well as hundreds of companies that kind of come from an industry just went through an existential shock? How do we help them transform? How do we build the transformational capabilities that allows companies that were once successful in one economic paradigm and shift over to smart cities, drones, renewable energy, and so on? So, since 2014, I have been spending pretty much all of my time working on these questions. Previously, a lot of experience, 2014, 15, 18, did a lot of research, did a lot of advisory. And now as I'm looking forward, I'm definitely going to be spending the next decade and beyond helping companies and countries successfully transform. Now, one of the things that you will see is that we have developed what we call a playbook and a toolkit that allows anyone to start picking up the tools and putting these ideas into practice. You don't have to read a lot of theory. You don't have to read all the textbooks and all the research articles. You can apply the toolkit, a very visual, hands-on, action-based toolkit to bring transformation into action. Now, a key question that we need to be talking about together is, well, what is actually transformation? Now, I'm working with big companies all around the world, and most of them, I would, politely say, they have it wrong. Because they think about transformation as a very small part of their business. Like, we're going to improve some of our processes. We're going to change our IT system. We're going to tweak our culture. And they label it transformation. It's not. Transformation to us is a deep and fundamental change to the company's value creation logic. So if you used to be making regular cars, what we call that, the diesel, the petrol-based cars, the ICE car, combustible engine cars, transformation is not simply switching that over to, hey, we're now going to start doing electric vehicles, because there's so much behind the curtains of those two cases. And as you'll see, rarely the business model is the same. Rarely the product is the same, the customer is the same, the price point, the margin is the same. So when we talk about transformation, it is typically a much, much deep-seated, a much larger, much more impactful, much more significant change than many people were expecting. So when we look at the very, very simple layout, we say, well, let's start with what is your ambition? And the ambition can, for example, be to be the world's leading mobility company. And say, well, what is your core business? What are the growth areas? And what is your explore category? And how do you balance those? Because companies that are successfully able to transform, they will have a dominant core business. And that dominant core business will be based on what the company has been doing over the last couple of decades, where they've built their core capabilities, their core competencies, they've built their customer base, their technology base, their employee focus. But most likely this old core business has to die. Move it out. And then you have to see, well, what do we have in the growth areas that we can eventually grow into our new core business? And what are all of these crazy ideas that we have out here? The wildly explorative, highly innovative, high risk, high yield ideas that could eventually over time become our new growth platforms and then our new core business. Companies that are able to transform, they follow this strategy intro. Core, growth, and explore is one of the absolute keys. And you'll see that in the simulation, as you will need to make a lot of investment decisions. What should we invest in our core business, in our growth areas, and in our explore category? And in the simulation, you'll be working in the digital environment to make sure you get this right, working with your team to make the investment decisions, strategic decisions, and basically try to outcompete the other teams in action. Now, talking about Transformation. I want to cover one thing. That is, there are three types of transformation: shock, shift, and evolution. The first category, the shock, is triggered by outside events, and it's really forcing change upon you in a very, very accelerated timeline. Now, it's very hard to pull off a successful transformation when you're facing a shock. The second is the shift. Shift is a sudden strategic move that just almost overnight. Well, we say overnight, but in reality, it's typically between 5 to 7 years. Very, very, very few are able to pull this off because it requires bold leadership like you have. Last category where we see most companies succeed is the evolution or the evolutionary approach to transformation. Evolution is a long-term, well-planned, well-executed, gradual change in resource allocation in business areas. It easily follows a 10 to 12 year timeline. Now, there's a few cases that may be down towards the 7-year category, but the majority of successful evolution transformation cases are really towards the 10 to 12 years plus. This is what Professor Reader McGrath calls the continuous reconfiguration over time. Right now, Microsoft is a great example, and as you will see in the simulation, you will be following the same playbook, trying to do the evolutionary approach on an accelerated timeline. So, my friends, let's talk about your program. My team and I are going to be working with you for a full day transform session. I am super excited to get a chance, and I'm super excited to get a chance to work in depth with you on these topics. So I'm going to be introducing the industry, which I know you worked with, and as you've been working through this semester with Professor Tony O'Driscoll, you have been looking into the mobility space. And that is perfect because the mobility, automotive, aviation, micromobility, I mean, these are arenas where things are just happening left and right. And that's what we're going to be working on in the simulation as well. Of course, you studied Tesla. We now have General Motors planning to overtake Tesla for the electric car crown. I'm extremely doubtful. We have GM flagging, let's go to Norway to study Norway's success with electric vehicles. But we also have new entrants, disruptive players. Here's the Foxconn Apple collaboration. May we see that Chinese and Taiwanese software manufacturer, chip manufacturer, high-tech producers, may they be coming into the mobility space and actually be making cars that are completely different from the cars of GM and Ford? Well, we'll see. Now, what about Tim Cook and his team at Apple? Apple Cars been talked about for at least 5 years, if not more. May we see an iPhone moment in the car industry? Now, I don't know what that car is going to look like, but we can be pretty sure that it's going to be a very different concept and a very different idea of a car. And of course, these are things that you're going to be working with in the simulation. But it's not just about cars. When we talk about mobility, we have to think bigger and broader. Here's Lilium, European company, just went public in a SPAC. Air taxi, got the 7-seater, got the 16-seater coming. May we see mobility change because of new players like Lilium coming in. They're providing air taxis. And they have a pretty strong team and a pretty strong case that this could actually be a success. But of course, we have the legacy players. And this is where Transformer really comes in. Volkswagen. The new CEO of Volkswagen has repeatedly been struggling with the internal pace and the internal ability to change. He has hundreds of thousands of employees that may not see the same type of future that he and his management team does. Because it's not about replacing the type of car with a different type of car. This will eat up into the supply chains. It will move a lot of the value creation, value capture off back to Asian companies, notably within the battery space. And Volkswagen, coming of the pedestal of being the world's largest car manufacturer may have to face a very, very different future. And the big question that Herbert Diess, the CEO of Volkswagen, has been asking, are we well enough prepared for what's coming? And the answer is most typically no. But of course, that's why we get the chance to work with you on Transform in Action. So we're going to be working on the mobility space. You're going to be working as the management team of different companies within the mobility space and competing against your peers. And all of our work is going to be based on real-life cases and ongoing industry shifts that you can read about in today's papers. And we're going to be working at the intersection between case and reality. So for example, here we have Herbert Diess again. Volkswagen needs to change from a collection of valuable brands to a digital company that reliably operates millions of mobility devices worldwide. It is a completely different future for the company. So going back to the simulation, here is a couple of examples of what we call the company cards. In the simulation, you and your team will be starting out with these company cards. Here's GN, the automaker. Since 1921, GN has been one of the world's leading auto manufacturers, producing millions of cars per quarter. The company is well known for its impressive efficiency culture. The problem is, people aren't really buying cars anymore. Analysts have been crashing your stock. Clearly, it's time for a transformation. Your task: complete a transformation roadmap, identify future growth areas, digital, electric, autonomous, shared flying, and reach a 50 billion market cap on the New York Stock Exchange. You have a small team, you have an opening cash balance, you have 2 business models. Good luck. So this is one example of a company card. And in the simulation, you will be starting with one of several types of these company cards. Here's Rail 1, from train to mobility. Since 1848, your company has been operating trains. At one point, you were the world's largest train company, measured in the number of trains. This is no longer the case. The world is shifting, and so should you. As new management, your job is to transform. Hit a 50 billion valuation on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. Third example, Flight electric scooters. You are an aggressive scale-up with huge ambitions in the micro-mobility space and beyond. Again, your job: achieve a 50 billion market cap on the NASDAQ. So these are 3 examples, and in the simulation, you will be choosing your own company that you will be guiding and leading. So your task: you are the management team. You have to turn your company around based on the company card that you get or you select. You are competing with up to 6 other teams, and they, let's be honest, statistically, they're probably better than you are. It is a highly competitive situation and a highly competitive environment. So, how do we win? Well, it's pretty simple. The first team to hit 50 billion market cap company evaluation on a publicly listed stock exchange without getting beat by the other teams first win. Sounds simple? Trust me, it's not. But how do we succeed? Now, that's a little bit more manageable initially. So what we have done, having run hundreds and hundreds of hours of this simulation, is we've identified a few success factors. Number 1, team collaboration. You need to make sure that your team is able to work well together. If you're not working well together, you're going to break down within the first 2 hours. Second, your strategic thinking. It's not so much about the strategic theory and the books and the models and the frameworks. It is how well are you able to see through the fog and successfully win by outthinking and outcompeting the others. Third, digital navigation. So we're going to be using a digital platform for our session called Myro, myro.com. And most likely, most of you are quite comfortable working with digital whiteboards. In case you're not, you need to make sure to set up an account and log in and get comfortable working on Myro as a platform. Most importantly is really a collaboration and a connection of these factors. you have to be able to work smarter together than you were by yourself. Now, this is just like any other management team where you bring a group of different people with different ideas and different experiences, different backgrounds together, and they have to be smarter together. And that is how you succeed. And if you're successful, there's a fair chance that you'll also come out winning. So let's do a little bit of deep dive into the transform simulation. And I want to make sure that you get this so you can be prepared to win when we're working together. So some of the questions that we've been asking in the background development is how do we teach strategy and transformation differently? Now we can do this over weeks. We can do it over days. In our case, we have one full, very intense day together. We also ask, how can we develop more transformational capacities? How can we develop more transformational leaders? How can we align very diverse teams around what we call 10 principles of transformation? And how can we help students like yourself really connect the different disciplines, strategy, transformation, finance, and team, into one single framework? This is the environment we'll be working in. We're going to be using Zoom as a video platform. We're going to be using Myro as a collaboration platform. And you'll be working real time in your own workspaces collectively. So, quick recap, Transform in 30 seconds. In Transform, you guys take on the role of the new management team within an established company. Your job, transform the company, reach 50 billion market cap, and please avoid going bankrupt. Please. Not as easy as it sounds, though. This is based on real life insights on how transformation works, why it works, and why it doesn't work. You have to relive a lot of those experiences. You have to navigate a massive level of complexity. You have to make rapid fire decisions on strategy, investments, partnership, and outright hostility towards the other teams if you so choose. Because you will be competing, and you'll over time build up very different strategies, very different strategy paradigms, and also management attitudes and behaviors. First team to 50 market cap win. And along the way, you have to navigate this. This is the transform triangle. The transform triangle is really the key to unlocking transform. Continuously, you will be working on when should we do profits? Because there are plenty of chance to take more profits and build cash and build a strong balance sheet. But at the same time, you also have to invest into new business models and basically build the future opportunities of your company. And then finally, which is for many the most challenging part, how do we work with financial analysts? Financial analysts represent your shareholders and your investors, and they may not always be happy with your performance. Expect analysts to be challenging, tough, and demanding. And then you and your team, you will have to continuously adjust and align around these three areas. Should we focus on this axis? Should we focus on this axis? Or should we focus on this axis? Company card, quick recap. So we have different company cards. Here we have Car Wagon, Jetways, and Lifebook. You'll get a chance to choose. We have your roles. Very important. You need to step into these roles, and you have to live these roles for the duration of the simulation. CEO. The CEO is responsible for the overall team performance. You need to be able to handle complexity and see through the fog, and expect to work very closely with capital markets. CSO, the Chief Strategy Officer, handles all aspects of strategy, business model, and a lot of the work that happens on the canvases. It's a big role, a lot of multitasking, and expect to be doing a lot of the work along the way. CFO, very important. The CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, is in charge of all aspects of finance, capital markets, investor relations, accounting, cash flow, valuation methods, business model valuations, and overall company valuation. You don't need to master all of this, but it's good if you like to count. Now, just in case, let's say that you are maybe just two people on the team. Well, in that case, we bring the CEO and the CFO into the same role. Maybe you have 4 or even 5 people on your team. In this case, we have the innovation manager, we have the investor relation managers, and then we have board members. So you can easily have up to 5 people on your team. In our case, you're going to be 3 people per team: CEO, CSO, and the CFO. And those roles are yours to own. Now, what will you experience? Well, as you and your team take on the role of a new management team, you will be challenged, always under time pressure and time constraint, to develop a strategy and make strategic decisions. You will be exposed to strategic dilemmas, hostile competitors, capital markets, and all of the real-life factors that a management team normally has to deal with. A lot of people, they get overwhelmed. They function poorly as a team. They get stressed. They make bad decisions. They're unable to collaborate on strategy, and they're unable to beat the competition. This is completely by design. You may not like it, but this is how we have created it, because we are reliving the real-life experiences of hundreds of leaders that I've had a chance to work with over the years. It's an advanced simulation. We are going to test your strategic leadership skills in action. It's going to be fun. It's going to be demanding, and there's nothing about this that is going to be easy. Now, in terms of the outcomes, what we expect to see in terms of outcomes is better teamwork, more strategic leaders, stronger team alignment. You're going to learn how to use new strategy frameworks. You're going to learn new ways of thinking about strategy, ways that you probably haven't covered in class with Professor O'Driscoll. But most importantly, at a personal level, you're going to start to really develop your own strategic thinking. And I'll guarantee you, these are skills that you can bring with you into any kind of role after you graduate. Now, there's a little bit of pre-work for you to do. And you're right now in it. First, you have a 5-6-page case study. It's pretty easy. You have this video. It's about 25 minutes plus. And you also need to make sure to set up a free account and get comfortable working on the Myro platform. So read the case, watch this video, and set up your Myro account. Now, a little bit about tech setup. You may not need this, but I still want to go through it. So, ideally, you have access to a big monitor. A TV screen is way better than a laptop. So a big monitor. Ideally, you have 2 screens. You're going to need a good microphone. You're going to need a good headset. And you also want to make sure that you have at least one outside device for your group chat channel. This may sound like a lot. It's not. Most people have these things around their house. It's just a matter of pulling it together and setting it up. You can complete this simulation on a single laptop, but it's not recommended. So you can complete it on a single laptop, but it's not recommended. It's simply too much for one screen to be okay to handle. Now, some people try to set up on their iPad. You can use your iPad as your secondary device, but do not try to use your iPad as your primary device. It's not going to work. Equally with your phone, do not try to have your phone as your primary device. And then finally, please guys, trying to work in your car while driving is seriously uncool. It happens probably 1 out of every 3 sessions. There's someone who just, I happen to be driving somewhere and I need to get there, and I'm sorry, but I will be paying attention while I'm driving on the highway. Forget about it. So this is a good setup. Here we have 2 screens. We have the device on the table. You can see the speakers on the side. This is a pretty good setup. Here, equally good setup. You can see the Mac on the tilted stand right there. Probably has the camera on top of the screen for the Mac. You can see the large curved monitor. You can see the extra device on the table. See a couple of speakers. This is a good setup. This working on your couch with the laptop on your lap, forget about it. And a couple of cats running around, forget about it. This is not going to work well. You may be able to pay attention on this setup, but you're not going to be able to work, and you're not going to be able to work efficiently and effectively together with your team. If this is how you show up, you're going to be a big, big drag for the rest of your team. This is what my setup looks like. Now, none of you guys need this setup. I have 7 screens. Nobody needs 7 screens. But what I do have is I'm running the Zoom on one laptop. I'm running the primary overall management on a couple of large external monitors. I have my iPad set up for the chat. I have extra lights, microphone, and a good set of speakers. This is a good setup that works well. It's important for you to find your setup. It doesn't have to look like this, but you should try to get beyond a regular small laptop. It's going to help you significantly, and it is going to give you a competitive advantage versus the other teams. So as we'll be working in the transform simulation, there's a couple of things that you will be gradually coming into. We'll have the simulation, we'll have different tools and canvases, and you'll be working both in plenary sessions and in team breakout sessions using Zoom. All right, now we have a few more minutes left before we wrap up this video, and we're going to take a tour of the actual simulation space that we're going to be working with. Let's go have a look. So here we have the digital Myro as a platform, and welcome Duke University. Now, I know that you guys have some experience working with Myro previously, so I'll do this very quickly. There are 3 navigation skills you need. Number 1 is zooming in and out. In the lower right-hand side of my screen, you can see I'm zooming out to 3%. I'm going to zoom back in again. Second, if you get lost, you can usually find my picture wearing a light blue shirt. It typically has a yellow circle around it. If you click that picture, you're going to jump to my view. Equally for your team members. So most likely every team is going to have someone who is quite capable working with Myro. In this case, click the picture, jump to view. And then finally, toggle control. Got a menu on the left-hand side. Here you switch between the hand and the regular arrow cursor, and that allows you to either engage write stuff, delete stuff, move stuff around, switch back, and you're now using the hand. Zoom, jump to view, and toggle control. That is the basic navigation. Now, as we get started here, I'll walk you through the first 3 minutes. So just like we covered in the previous part of this video, you are the new management team. Your job is to reinvent and transform your company. You're competing with up to 6 other teams. First team to 50 billion market cap wins. You have your transform triangle with the profits, the business model portfolio, and the analyst ratings. You know that strategy is choice, and micro decisions that are made like this are probably going to mean more than your long-term planning sessions that you have in your breakout groups. Should you go for short-term profits or not? Should you listen to those weak signals or not? Should you attempt the early hostile takeover, knowing that you're going to risk your own company once that play starts playing out? These are all micro decisions you're going to be making with very limited time available to you. And of course, as we proceed, you'll all get introduced to the stock market, where you will be round 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5, 6, 7, 8. You will be getting your own company valuation, hopefully going up and to the right. And the first team that passes this magic goal line right here, the dot at 50 billion, is the winner. All right. So when you start here, the first thing you're going to do is select your character and select your company card. So for every team, not for every participant, but for every team, select a character and a company card. Now I'm going to select a character, and I'll take this gentleman with the beard right here. I'll pull him to the side, and then I'm going to take this company card here. It says Rail 1. That's going to be my card right here. Now, once I have those, Control X, and I'm now going to have a quick look. You're ready. Go to your team workshop. And we have a little bit of team huddle. These are early instructions. Yeah, got that. All right, I'm gonna go find my workspace. So here we have the actual setup. This is transform the board. You have team 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. You have 7 teams set up. And in this quick example, I'm going to be team number 1. I'm going to set up right here. I'm going to put these cards here. We got this gentleman right here. We're going to put him right here. We're also going to do a little bit of copy paste. And we're going to put him here and here. So he is now lined up on the starting line, ready to go. Here we have team number 1. I'm going to zoom in. Yeah. So this is Rail 1 from Train to Mobility. I'm going to read that in a second. All right, I got my name going. Here we go. Got team number 1 set up. Now, as we start working here, take a minute to read this. Then we have to do a little bit of work on the side here. Put in your CEO name, CFO name, CSO name. In case you have a 4th member on your team, that's going to be your innovation manager. If not, just skip that. You complete the ID of the firm card. You have your, and once you have your chief strategy officer lined up, he or maybe she want to take a look at these 2 core business models. They are now getting moved into your active business model board, and you now have 2 business models that are already in place, producing revenue, producing profit from day number 1. So this is the company that you're taking over. You're a new management team, you're coming in, and you have 2 operational business models in place. You'll see the first one. Core business model is safe and sound, well tested, runs smoothly in established markets. It costs $4 million to operate. It brings in $5 million annual revenue, which leads to $1 million profit every year. Second, a new product within your old business model looks very promising. The product adds $500,000 in annual revenue to your core, no cost. So you now have $5.5 million revenue, $4 million cost, and that leads to $1.5 million profit. That's your setup. Now, if we go back, you'll see that we have some cash. We got $5 million cash. We have financial summary. This is for the CFO at the end of year number 1. Count revenue, profits, cash balance, and market cap. Here we have the share price and market cap. We're going to come back to that a little bit later. Now here we have a number of canvases that we're going to be working on as we proceed, covering your business model pipeline, your innovation strategy, your corporate venture investment portfolio, your transformation journey, your transform triangle, and finally we have your team huddle, learning to know your new company. So right here, we have your opening instructions. Once every team have completed its opening set of instructions, we're going to move back to the transform main board, and we're going to get started. The purpose of transform is to teach people like yourself, train leaders, train future leaders, but also working inside the boardroom, working with management team, working with chief strategy teams, working with large business development teams, innovation teams all around the world. In a regular month, we may run between 5 to 8 of these Transform sessions, sometimes more. And we have global partners all over the world that are using Transform in action. My name is Chris. I'm really, really excited to get a chance to work with you guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video. And I really hope that you are ready to go to work and compete with the other teams within the mobility space. I'm looking forward to seeing you in just a few weeks.